Give it to them. Give it to them.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I seen them bales up there you talking about, man. I think the squares, they haven't changed much, but they're still square, if you know what I mean.
It's impossible to get away from it. There's gonna be a square involved in your grouper all the time, simply because of the historic value of the square grouper itself, as we just showed right there. Those are all actual news footage pictures of square groupers, by the way. None of them which truly represent an actual square grouper, which is a massive bale of about 50 of those bricks that we're seeing. But it's kind of hard. I guess maybe some of the footage has been lost, but I wanted to throw that together to sort of make sure that everybody sees the sort of 305 vibe I wanted to make sure we put in this show today. So
we're gradually getting there, man. We're gradually getting there. We're gonna have us a little tune here with a little Miami Vice swag. You know how it goes, man. You guys stick around here with us. You're on the live show today, episode 16 today, right, Bob?
16, man.
Damn, 16. You know what I mean? 16 today. We talking about pipe dreams on number 16. And boy, we got a doozy for you guys today. You want to stay tuned if you want to go ahead and check it out before we get into the thick of it. You got that link up there in the comments, I think. Put in the private chat. Maybe Bob will post it over there for us. See Mike checking in. What's up, Mike? We see you, baby. We see Jay Mackin checking in. So the usual suspects are coming online. But we're talking about pipe dreams today. And can you smoke weed and get creative and start a business? That's kind of a topic of discussion. You know what I mean? You know anybody that smoked some weed and started a business before?
Yes. A very successful business. I can just start off with our buddy Ken Man. Ken Man was working for a popular pool company in Miami, Florida for years, sort of in like, I don't want to say an apprenticeship, but he definitely started off like entry level and moved up real quick, got really, really tight with the ownership. And I believe when a person passed away, he took over ownership and now owns his own pool company and does an amazing job with it. And I know that at one point he did enjoy cannabis and does enjoy cannabis. And he is one of the smartest motherfuckers I know. I'm never going to make the correlation between cannabis smoking and ignorance. I won't ever make that connection simply because I've smoked it all my life and I'm not a dumbass.
Yeah. Well, let's let some more notifications go out so we get some more folks in here. You know what I mean? We live today on Square Groupers. Like we said, episode 16. We're talking pipe dreams. And if you follow us here closely, you know we pay attention to marijuanamoment.net. And there was an article recently posted there a couple of weeks ago. And we're going to post that in here today. That's going to be our topic of discussion. There was a study done on 254 folks. And they wanted to find out, does weed help you come up with a better business idea if you're a weed user versus not a weed user? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today in more detail as we get some more folks up on the line. It is hump day today. Hump day. We are live. Yeah, we are humping on a pipe dream today, baby. You know what I mean? Can we get creative enough on the pipe dream to make a product?
Will you send me that link in the private chat?
I think it already is. I think, yeah, I sent it to you.
Did you? Because I do not see it.
Let me try it again. Here.
Oh, there we go.
There it is.
Blam, blam, blam. So, yeah, man. BG, what have you been up to, man?
Man, I'm going to tell you what. We were talking about, I showed you that black cat that I had. I've got this brand that I found out here in, my dispensary. Shout out Northwest Cannabis Connection in Puyallup. But I found this brand, Black Cat. You guys have known, I said on my birthday, I kicked it with this guy named Jack Herrera. You know what I mean? It was the first strain of the Black Cat that I was on. But, man, I have discovered this, and thank you for looking up the different strains that I've discovered here, because I've got some White Tahoe cookies, some Mule Fuel, and also that GG. And I think that's what I'm going to roll up today, because we good to go on GG with Square Groupers. You know what I mean?
Grouper, baby. That Gorilla Glue, man. Woo! Let me tell you, like, I don't want to use indica and sativa as opposites either, because they're very similar too in their own ways. But for someone like myself who loves indicas, man, I can't get enough of that Gorilla Glue, dude. I know that they say that it's indica, but it's definitely probably more sativa, or a really good hybrid. Regardless, man, it is so delicious. It does everything, like my brother pointed out. The smell factor, the sight factor, the feel factor, all that stuff nails it on a Gorilla Glue, man. That's why it kind of hit the scene and blew up so fast, man. You find it in, I'm actually getting ready to grow some, but it's mixed with gelato. So I've got some gelato glue that I'm getting ready to start growing right now. That Gorilla Glue is gorgeous, man. Congratulations. And shout out to your dispensary, man, because it looks like they are making some really consistently awesome product, man. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, it's out here at Black Cat Farms. You guys can check them out. They've got a Facebook and an Instagram, so you guys can go look them up. They're pretty legit. Of course, I went to their site, went to their socials. They're on top of that too as well, and I really love that because what I'm doing now is I have a list of all the dispensaries in my county and all the other counties in the state, and I'm gradually reaching out to those folks and using a skill set that I've developed that we'll talk a little bit about here today. You say, can you smoke enough weed and start your own business? Well, I'll share my experience with you guys. I know Bob shared his experience with Ken Man there today. Once you develop a set of skills, you know what I mean? If somebody comes to you and asks you all the time, if you got a family, you're in a family, or your friends always come to you and say, hey, what do you do about this? Or what do you do about that? Or how do you do this? Or how do you do that? If you got folks coming to you asking that specific question, you may need to think, hey, I might be pretty good at that. You know what I mean? I might be able to share that might be able to make a business out of that. And so what I've been able to do over a number of years since 2016 till now with the social media stuff has been able to start my own creative consultative agency. You know what I mean? We're dealing with businesses, like I said, reaching out with other dispensaries and seeing what their social value is, what kind of, social presence do they have online? Do they even have a brand and things of that nature? Because now as we see it, thanks to the pandemic, and you and I have talked to that going back to last year about what have you been doing during the quarantine in terms of developing a skill set during this time down instead of just Netflixing and getting fat. You know what I mean? Have you been working on a skill set? And my partner over there, you know what I mean, which he's got a ton of stuff going on, and we're not really talking about his grow today. We're talking about how can you grow a business. But case in point, look at him. This guy knows how to cultivate, grow, and do all those things for those out there like you that are watching us here to help you figure that out. And so on today's topic, like we talked about, marijuanamoment.net actually came out with a study. And I think, did you share it there in the comments yet, Bob?
You know what? I tell you, we can go one better, my brother. We can go one better, my brother. You don't even know how advanced we are nowadays in square groupers.
Oh, well, there we go, man. See, that's all I like to have you drive because you know how to do all that cool shit over there. So but as you can see, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, and it's exactly what you were saying right now. The main idea of this study, they will have you believe at the very beginning of this study, was basically telling you overall that they took a study of people who smoke marijuana and people who don't smoke marijuana and asked them to come up with some good business decisions and then judge them on their decisions, basically. So the few things that you need to understand before this whole thing gets into your head, you need to first take into account the people who are judging the people who came up with the ideas. Now, they said they went to Business Insiders and stuff like that to make sure that they didn't just get any Tom, Dick, and Hank off the street to say your idea sucks or it doesn't suck. But there's also some other things that start coming to light within this article. But at the beginning, it just says to you that beyond their innate creative aptitude, entrepreneurs may attempt to enhance their creativity. Despite generating more original ideas, we found cannabis users' ideas were less feasible. So right off the bat, the average cannabis user is going to read that and kind of put their hands up and get defensive and be like, I'm sorry? You're telling me my pipe dream is not worthy of your pipe or my dream, and when you start going a little bit further down into this, you start realizing there's some stipulations in this particular study. And what were those stipulations, BG?
Yeah, I mean, they talked to, it says researchers had 254 entrepreneurs come up with a new venture idea. So before we even wade into that, as I was telling you, how do you start, how do you use cannabis, or how can cannabis become part of your creative process and your pipe dream? You know what I mean? For those of us that experiment or have medicated with cannabis and have found that maybe you are more productive, maybe you create a list prior to smoking and then afterward, you know what I mean? You can blaze through that list and you can concentrate a little bit more instead of having these random thoughts going through your heads, things like that. If I'm talking to somebody out there, we're talking to you, okay? Because these researchers actually talked to folks that they weren't using cannabis. They had asked them, had they used cannabis up to a certain amount of times within the last 30 days, and then had they used recently within the last 30 days, I believe. Kind of paraphrase that there. So I found that kind of funny, that how are you going to come up with an idea about cannabis, but you're not smoking cannabis?
On top of it, really, it was sort of shady how it goes. Let's see what it says. Cannabis users' diminished idea feasibility compared to non-users was significant in those with low entrepreneurial experience, but not in those with high entrepreneurial experience. So basically, this is what that says. People who smoke weed and have business sense are going to come up with good ideas. People who smoke weed and don't have good business sense, they're probably not going to come up with some good ideas. And that's really sort of the whole trick of the whole entire. And I don't know if they meant this. I think really it's just more of me and BJ kind of picking it apart and saying it started off sounding like it was this very in-depth, legitimate thing between people who actively smoke cannabis and people who don't at all. But it wasn't really like that. It was basically, if you thought about smoking cannabis or have in the last 5 or 6 months a couple times, then you're in this group. And if you never have and don't want to, you're in this group. And that's when they come up with those. That's sort of the middle of that. But I've definitely come up with some good ideas that wind up coming to fruition later on because somebody else ran with it. But I don't think it's a killer of ideas. Like I said before, though, I do think it might be a killer of motivation. So the physical motivation to get up and do some things might diminish if you smoke cannabis. But if you're doing a podcast, it don't matter.
And that brings us to the second point. It's not so much are we trying to beat the study up or pick it apart. We're trying to dissect it to get you to understand from a certain perspective. As the industry is beginning to evolve, as we see more and more people invest, more and more states become legalized, you know what I mean? And more folks get access to that. There's going to be those challenges there, but because there's no research, a lot of folks in this stigma has got to, especially from the scientific point, when you look at any folks in the healthcare industry, there's not a lot of science rooted that's available, you know what I mean, for these folks to be able to reverse that stigma or to broadly, to be put out there in the open where it's talked about. Because you got to remember the war on drugs, folks. If you don't remember this guy named, what was his name? Hansberry, right?
Anslinger.
Yeah, that guy. You know what I mean? One guy demonized the whole plant. And so with that being said, you got to be careful of the studies that you look at, because as me and Bob began to peel this back, he looked at it, I looked at it, and then we both came and we talked about it. He found what he found, I found what I found. It's two different sets of eyes. And basically it comes up, how are you going to ask 254 people who's not smoking weed at the time to come up with a weed idea? Now, take a step back. They're like, well, you got to be high to come up with a weed idea. What are you saying? But what I'm saying is, right? If you put 254 people that play basketball maybe once or twice in their life and ask them to come out how to start a fucking NBA basketball team, they're probably going to have some problems. You know what I mean? So you want to be invested in that. And I think what they're getting to on the entrepreneurial side or the motivation side is a lot of that is already rooted in those folks who happen to use cannabis as a creative process anyway. So is cannabis ultimately responsible for some of these ideas? A lot. I'll just share with you right here. Where do you think square groupers came from?
And listen, if we're talking about the average, or not even the average, the above average mind of a cannabis user, I would venture to say they are some of the most creative minds you would ever come in contact with. There's a lot of people like myself who during their youth used other kind of substances, psychedelics, to kind of open up their mentality. And whether you believe this or not, I'm here to tell you that it does do something positive for your mind. And even if you don't believe in what it actually does, it gives you the ability to think a little bit further than the barriers of your mind before you might have taken that. And I think that can be applied to a lot of people in this world. You don't necessarily have to take LSD or mushrooms to do that. I'm just saying, if you find a way to expand the parameters of your mind, you'll be able to think in a bigger fashion. And I think a lot of people like myself and other cannabis users are very open-minded in that way because of cannabis. And, we probably meet more diverse groups of people because more diverse groups of people who smoke cannabis. That's just the way it is. But I don't know, man. I've seen some, there's a lot of stoners out here, opened up a dispensary, man, and they're making some good money. So it's only now where businessmen are taking over.
Yeah, again, it's just a lot of it's education with anything. You know what I mean? Like we said, the stigma's out there. A lot of folks don't even know what's going on. Like I said, there's always three types of Cowboys fans: those who wonder what happened, those who watch what happened. There's a lot of folks out there wondering and watching what the fuck is happening with the cannabis industry right now.
Yep.
Then you got folks like what we're talking about on pipe dreams. This square grouper shit is a fucking pipe dream, in case you didn't know. I think I told my partner over there, I said, hey, man, give it a year. Let's go till November. Here we are, episode 16. And we're gradually adding more tools and bits and pieces. As you can see, Bob's coming up with, he's the expert driver of the ship here. He's got some great videos and stuff that's coming out. So when both of us have smoked and then we talked, this show initially was going to be called like Cannabis Cowboys. Truth be told. And then, I came to Bob and I said, man, what do you think about this? I like this movie, Cocaine Cowboys. And he says, man, have you ever seen the movie Square Grouper? Or the documentary Square Grouper? I'm like, no, I haven't.
It's a good one. Y'all got to check it out.
And then here we are. You know what I mean? So matter of fact, you got some of that. You got some of the footage in there on that, or is that just clips and stuff that you took off? Was that from news and stuff like that?
That's just South Florida news footage right there, man. Just, it's like, it's so funny. It's only news on Facebook now because it seems shocking, but I'm telling you right now, growing up in South Florida, 70s, 80s, 90s, cocaine washing on the shore, they're not sending anybody out to cover that. Nobody gives a shit. That happens so many times. It's like a tree falling over in the wind. It's a very polarizing thing to see.
Did you say you actually picked one of them bales up of weed when you was young? Y'all cracked it in the smoke?
Sure.
It's called seaweed or some shit?
Yeah, man. It was the saltiest, blackest, horrible bud you will ever get your hands on, but we had pounds of it. And we forced ourselves to smoke it because we were like, man, we don't have any money, or like we couldn't get $25 for an eighth, you know what I mean? And
fake it till you make it, baby. Fake it till you make it.
We figured out that if you smoke just a little bit of it, you get just enough of an effect to not get saltwater head and get a massive headache from it. But even then, we would just at one point we were just balling it up and throwing it at each other. But yeah, it's just that's the way it is. You let 50 bales of marijuana go so that the 30 keys that you have on your boat can pass through. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and a lot of folks don't know. Google that. You can go up on YouTube, just YouTube Square Grouper and check it out. Matter of fact, going back, you actually know the guy, met the guy who actually did the documentary. Did you not?
Yeah, my brother knew Billy Corbin. I can't pinpoint where he knew him or how he met him, but he knew him. He knows Robin Farzad too, also who did that book about the Mutiny Hotel in Miami, Florida, where all the kingpins stayed. But yeah, he's the one that kind of came up with that. Not kind of came up. He did Cocaine Cowboys 1 and 2. Cocaine Cowboys 1 was about Griselda Blanco and her impact on South Florida, which is something we all knew about. I know that a lot of people were used to hearing about Pablo Escobar and Carlos Later and some of these other guys that were really, really big in the coke game. But Griselda was ruthless, man, and she murdered a lot of people. And I'm convinced at least one of the men.
What the hell's going on? They got money. Don't even know what this whole town just got a facelift in the middle of nowhere.
The crazy thing about South Florida and the Keys was one of those things where you can go ahead and buy up property near swamps and near like large bodies of water, and you have a really, really good shot of going in the backyard and digging holes in your backyard and finding huge amounts of cash. If you were to take over seized properties, that's what a lot of people wind up doing, and they found a lot of cash that way. The drug game was massive in Miami, Florida, as you know, and it was all about using us as a port to get the drugs into the country, and that's how it happened. But Square Groupers was a great documentary, and yeah, I met him at the Church of Cannabis out here in Denver. He was doing a screening of that show, and hung out with him and talked to him. He's a great guy. Trying to get him to come on here, but he's busy, man. That guy doesn't take a fucking break.
We'll eventually grab him, you know what I mean? At some point. And we're running around our studio and all this other shit, you know what I mean? And he pulls up, you know what I mean? Got a dream. You got to speak the shit into existence. So talking about pipe dreams, right? Getting back to this pipe dream. So are you a cannabis user out there? Or are you not even a cannabis user? You're just somebody watching us here today. You don't even have to be about cannabis. You know what I mean? You got a business idea. I mean, when you look at the cannabis industry, starting a dispensary is not the only thing you can do. Blogging about cannabis or maybe taste testing, some of the stuff like what Bob does over there is with the strains and seedsmen. You know what I mean? Doing unpacking videos. Like if you were to take this brand new product for Black Cat and do a product review on that, you know what I mean? Now you might get you might have some smoke on the internet somewhere about that between Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, but you get what I'm saying. The same things that folks are doing with the makeup industry, you can do with the cannabis industry. All right. So those of you guys out there, you got phones, you got Wi-Fi, you got a creative imagination, you got a passion when it comes to creativity. You can apply that to a cannabis pipe dream, literally. And these 254 folks that they talked to, granted, they were experimenters of, I wouldn't call them cannabis users because What is really a cannabis user? How do you differentiate a user from a non-user? I think that's a great question. Let's tackle that, because that's what they said they wanted to get out of that, but they were trying to birth some new idea to find out if that had anything to do with it, when clearly, I don't know, maybe it was, bad from the jump. What do you think? What's the difference between a user and a non-user?
Again, like what I said earlier, I believe maybe the non-user might be more closed-minded, but that also might be an advantage in business. I think if you don't worry too much about parameters and competition and risk, and you just kind of jump into things, you might be rewarded a little bit higher. But maybe I don't know. I think that's why I think this whole really the advert or the article is a little loaded, and the question is also loaded too, because user, non-user, yeah, what does that mean? But really, it was about, are you someone who has good entrepreneurial ideas already? And if you don't, whether you're a stoner or not, doesn't really have anything to do with any of that. So if you're a good business person, smoking a joint and coming up with an idea is probably not going to be any less lucrative to you than not smoking a joint and coming up with the same idea. I just think maybe if you're a cannabis user, you might come up with a more creative idea.
Well, let's do this. I clicked on the link that they had for the study in the actual article. I want you to take a look at that, pull that up. See, I mean, what are they really grabbing from that? I don't know. You know what I mean? Because this might be a case study where, not every article that comes out that says based on this study, because you got to understand, as many of us homers out there that want the shit to be legalized, you're going to have the haters out there going against the contrarian, being contrarian and going against the grain, saying it's bad for you, like an anslinger. Like, if you smoke marijuana, it's going to make black men go screw white women. You know what I mean? That type of shit. I sent that link over there. And to me, I can't find a whole lot of, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's something new. Oh, there's the abstract. Okay, I guess you can read through it. But you got to really dig into these articles as we've done here. And more or less, this is not to, punch marijuanamoment.net in the face. We follow them. But in terms of pipe dreams and creating businesses, I think it's just kind of twisted inside, like what Bob was saying. And he's got that link up there that actually was to that study. What do you got there?
It seems like it's really trying to be very long-winded and wordy, kind of like how I am. But it says new venture ideation is critical to the entrepreneurial process. To generate creative ideas, some entrepreneurs turn to cannabis, proposing its benefits. However, extant research has not validated such claims. I don't know. Like, so then what was the whole thing about, if that's the case?
Well, that's what I'm saying is, we got to be careful, just like you see, and I'll use, for example, let's go to the Dallas Cowboys. There's a website that I am beginning to hate. There was one that I hate and crushed a while back. It was called 12up.com. They were just clickbaitish, right? But now there's this one called Heavy on Dallas Cowboys, and they heavy on the bullshit over there. You know what I mean? So they put a lot of stuff that's flowery around one or two facts and make it look like it's more than it is, if you follow what I'm saying, so it gets passed along. And I don't think that marijuanamoment.net is guilty of hashtag shit for clicks and likes. It's a legitimate study. But I think the point that we want you guys to understand is, when you're doing your research or looking at things out there, you can apply these principles to Dallas Cowboys news. What site is it coming from? Where's the source? You know what I mean? Oh, it's coming from Cairo, Egypt. Oh, okay. All right. Got you. Okay. You know what I mean? So you got to look at those types of things. But when it comes to the pipe dream, I think, you know what I mean? Our own study here, Square Groupers, between you and I, they should come and contact us. I think we had a great idea. What about you?
Let me ask you this. If that's the case, are digital dealers living a pipe dream with what they do in our DMs?
I don't know, man. I got a friend request from one today. She was friends with you. I was like, because I don't know, Bob know a lot of people, but man, after about an hour, she was in my inbox. Hey, I got that shit. Her shit was, the stories were going, everything. Like, she looks like a person. Like, wow. She's like, oh, do you want to? And I'm just like, oh, you too. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, digital dealers, man, is I don't know what the fuck's going on out there with people trying to sell weed on the internet. I need to find somebody. Now, you don't have to tell me here. You can DM me, maybe. You know, put it out in public. But I want to know, folks really buying off the fucking internet in these illegal states? Is that maybe a hot market? Yes. Why they can do that?
Let me tell you, and the reason why I brought this up, because I decided to sort of backtrace one of these folks. I accepted their friend request, knowing full well that I was running into a digital dealer. And then quickly as I possibly could, went to their about to find out exactly what everything is that entails their business, and whether if anything pops up, sort of red flag where like, oh, they're going to get you. So this person has some rules, and without getting too specific, I'll go ahead and run through them. The first question is, do you ship? To which this person says yes to all 50 states, US, Europe, Asia, Australia, and South America. Number 2, will I get a tracking number? Yes, you will, as soon as it goes out. Where are you located? I don't want to say that, but they tell you. Can I meet you in person? Yes, but I need extra verification of who you are. If you want to meet me, I'll have to tell you what I need from you. And another one is, are you legitimate? Yes, I'm legitimate. What form of payment do you take? Cash App or Bitcoin only? And this is a funny one right here. How do I get verified? Send me a live video via Snapchat of you smoking or doing something very illegal. Get creative. Treat it like a job interview. Prove to me that you aren't a cop. No camera roll. You need to say, and he puts a phrase out there, and I don't want to say that, but he puts a phrase out there that you have to say during the video in order to be verified. And then it goes on to say that I have great prices, items have a minimum, and do you provide insurance for shipping? And I've seen various posts on that person's page about like showing specific courier companies and going, thank you so much for the business you do for us, which is sort of like poking the bear if I'm being honest. There's a lot of ways, and I don't want to talk about how that happens, but there's ways to do it legally, which is why there are digital dealers, and I don't want to say it's legitimate. I'm just saying it's legitimately a thing. And
there was digital dealer businesses too out there that took the PPP loans from the government as getting slapped now after the fact. So, I don't know, man, that's pretty scary. You know what I mean? Get creative and do something illegal on the camera.
So basically, let's just play fun right now. Let's say that person is an undercover cop. What that undercover cop is guessing is that this person is not only going to do something illegal by purchasing this, they're also going to, on video, do something illegal so they further have more evidence in case they decide to prosecute. So this is like a recipe for an idiot. If you go through any of those steps without validating who that other person is on the other side because you are that desperate to get cannabis, then you're going to have to you might fall victim to one of those locked up abroad situations, man. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty messed up, man. I don't really know how anybody would jump into it.
We need to keep peeling this back, bro, because I know there's somebody out there that's gotten. I want to find somebody that's gotten. Like this shit is starting to really, like, who's got that kind of fucking time?
I mean, if you think about it, I don't know if it's necessary. If maybe it's a bot that is able to sort of shoot out invitations to people who have the same interests that you have. So let's say on my Bob the Cannabis Cowboy profile, I like a specific light company, a specific seed company, a specific dispensary. If that person has the same friends or the same likes, then those bots will just shoot invites to people who are in the same group. And I think maybe it happens that way too, but then they're also so aggressive with hitting you in your DM. So it is a full-time job for them, I think. And they do get away with it.
They got to friend you. A bot can't do that. And they got to DM you. The bot can't. Well, bots can do that, but this was a long the copy and paste message I got today too. I don't know, bro. I think there's more to the story, but getting back to the digital dealers in the pipe dream, obviously somebody got some kind of DM dream going on over there. Because if you're buying weed, like if you thinking, like me and you can't even hang out if you think you can buy weed on social media. Like I don't, So I had some folks ask me, like, dog, that show y'all do, is that y'all really selling weed over there? Like, no, we're not selling weed. Because people don't know what they don't know. They see what they see on the surface. You know what I mean? That's called creativity. You know what I mean? We smoke weed, you get creative, you start a business. You fool everybody and they think you're actually selling weed, but you're selling dope content. Because you're not gonna find this kind of content. Nobody else is talking about this stuff anywhere else. All of you that are watching have been affected by this, especially if you're cannabis users and you watch this show and you've been on a cannabis page and you've commented on there or liked something or something and somebody inboxed you or DM'd you and says, hey man, I got that work.
Yeah, it's almost right away, and it sucks. And I spoke about it before. Right away, if I see a profile friend me of a half-naked chick I know automatically I have to block them because it's just basically trying to sell me their porn channel or whatever. And then right away, if somebody sends me another friend request with just a close-up of nugs, I have to automatically assume that they're digital dealers too. And it sucks because I'm trying to be friends with people who are like-minded cannabis users. So I have to basically see if you're an actual cannabis user and not a digital dealer, and then hopefully you are. And then there's certain criteria you need to meet for me visually before I approve you. And then, most of the time I wind up kicking myself in the ass on that because 2 days later I get a DM that says the same shit. And I'm like, damn, I thought you were better. Like you got me. I thought you were legit. And, it's kind of tough, man. It's real tough in this community. The black market is.
We should do a show like Facebook's most wanted digital dealers, like the top 5, what I mean, with their names and put them on. I don't know. Maybe that might bring too much attention. I don't know. But it's just stuff out there it's stuff out there like this that really makes you go, like Arsenio Hall, makes you go, because, like I said, when it comes to these pipe dreams and cannabis and everything, we're all, like we say, on the cusp of something brand new here. And it's crazy because of the eggshells Bob and I have to seem like we walk on over here to operate. It seems like other pages and folks out there are just out there having a ball, doing whatever they want to do with no penalty. And so that makes you stop and think. If you can shut me and log me out of my Facebook account for posting a story that I'm at the cannabis dispensary, but you're not tracking these DMs with folks trying to sell weed on your platform, there's something wrong over there, Zucks.
Yeah, that's a problem, man. And again, I think it's just sort of one of those shitty reality things you start figuring out when a little bit later that, the people that are out there taking shortcuts that might not be anywhere near your intelligence level are kind of flying past you because you decided maybe to run the straight and narrow, or maybe you decided to go with it the honorable way. Whereas in real life nowadays, it just that doesn't necessarily get you ahead. And these folks in particular, man, they flaunt it because they're not. There's no algorithm that picks up any of that shit. It's just activity between people and people. They're not posting a lot of numbers. They're basically telling you to go someplace else if you want to get that information so that they don't get picked up on the Facebook algorithm. Because I know if you put anything with a $sign on a post, they automatically flag that and say this guy's trying to sell something.
Sure, because I'm in a Dem Boys memorabilia cravers group. Where I get all these jerseys from that are autographed. And the same way, they're like, you can't say certain words, even, because and we're in there legally doing stuff, but it's right. The language on the network, like what you're talking about. I get it. And that's what I'm saying. If it's going on in the DMs, why are y'all scratching on the surface and shadow banning everybody? Why the fuck y'all ain't looking? Oh, I guess they can't do that. That's what do they call that? Personal information or something. They can't spy on that or something, right?
Shit. They can't get caught spying on it, or they can't say they're spying on it. But we're wide open, man.
They can't put that out because they're not supposed to be looking at it to begin with, right? Yeah, okay. But anyway,
if you think it ain't a big deal, next time any of you folks have to install an app or have uninstalled Facebook and reinstalled it, when they tell you to click yes for their terms and conditions, instead of just clicking it, read all of it. And then you'll figure out exactly. And it's meant to be that tedious. It's meant to be that long. It's meant to be that non-layman. It's meant to be confusing as shit. And basically it tells you, look, man, if you want to play with this app and you want to talk to your friends and my friends and on my community, you're going to have to let us have your information and the ability to look at all of your information. So I hope we're all used to that.
Man, it's crazy how we work. How many folks, who we got rolling with us today? I see Jay Mackin over there. He's talking about William Hooks. That guy, William Hooks, still around. Up, Jay. I see you over there.
He's the OG, man. He's the example, right? Isn't he the first one that popped up? We sort of started talking
Sarah's
about it.
Sarah's here too, but Sarah's there. She's over there taking care of Street Team Amy. So prayers still up, Street Team Amy over there. You know what I mean? We know they're big time fans. They watch us here, but Street Team Amy tragically lost her fiance in a car wreck. So we're praying for her as Amy's over there. Sarah's consoling her, but we appreciate y'all jumping on here too as well, trying to get you guys' minds off of that a little bit. And where it's at, man, and here's my advice, and I hope that, maybe you can share a little bit of your advice too. If you're a creative type, as you guys have seen here at the Built Different group, you know what I mean? This is Square Groupers. We're over here on Bob's YouTube channel, but at the Built Different group where you can catch this Casually Serious podcast, my digital dealer shows over there and things like that. We're looking for creatives in the other 31 NFL fan bases. And if you're a creative type that it doesn't matter what fan of what team you are, even if you're just thinking of starting any kind of thing, like if you want to write, I would say go to Medium. Medium.com is owned by Twitter, and you can get paid to write over there. And I will tell you the cannabis keyword in Medium doesn't yield a lot of content in there right now. So what does that mean? Opportunity. So if you can come up with some fire content over there, I wrote about cannabis a lot over there. Nobody's flagging me there. If you can write some fire content and get it shared, man, we love to share your work here. That's just one example of if you're a writer, because I'm the blogging type. Like I said, you could take your favorite product from your dispensary local to you, and you could do the research on it, put it together, a little 5-minute video, or maybe a 5-minute little, you know what I mean? Read, this is all this, and this is what your experience was. Believe it or not, that stuff will travel. You know what I mean? Because it's like a Yelp review on Medium. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is this and this and this is that. You know what I mean? So that's my example. Like, if you want to get into this cannabis thing, writing is just one area. And if you consider doing that, get with me, and you want to be on LinkedIn, and that's another tidbit I'll share with you later after the fact. So that's my advice, man. If you want to write, join me over there on Medium as I start to kick back up some more dust there this year. But for writers, you can get paid to write. You know what I mean? I've gotten paid. Now, that ain't been a lot, but I've gotten paid over there for writing some stuff. I've been there for a couple of years now, and it's linked to Twitter. So if you're big to Twitter, man, you can get on Twitter too as well, and build a following pretty fast. And before you know it, once legalization hits, if you already have your boat in the water, like what we talk about here at Square Groupers, you know what I mean? All boats will rise.
Yeah. Hanging out with us is definitely going to be good. As soon as that floodgates open, man, you guys are going to be on a big ship rolling with us, man. And I actually want to kind of give a shout out to my patrons too. Thank you so much to everybody. I don't want to blow you guys up. You know who you are. I'm all about anonymity. I know you guys are as well. Some of you guys have sent me pictures of your seeds germinating, small grows. I'm helping some of you guys out. I want you guys to use that information. Anybody who wants to learn how to grow cannabis, hit me up on my Patreon, become a patron at the full harvest level, and you will have me at your disposal. I'm focusing on people who have never grown before or who are just basically trying to learn how to grow for the first time. And I've got a lot of information, man, and it's really, really good at this point right now because we're starting the beginning of harvest or of growing season. A lot of people are starting to see the sun come out outside. It's starting to feel a little bit warmer for a lot of people, and they're starting to get that green thumb going. And if you know anything about cannabis, you know if you want to grow outdoors, right now is when you want to start planting. So anybody who wants to learn how to do any of that, hit me up and join my Patreon. I'll put the link here in a little bit. But that just goes to show you right there that, you know, I had a little bit of a dream right there, and it had a lot to do with my weed pipe. And it came to fruition, man. I've got some folks that I met because of you and because of the cannabis community that I'm going to know for the rest of my life that are great people. So a lot of good stuff can come out of that. Yeah,
that's funny. Like I said, we've never met here physically. Me and you have never crossed paths personally yet. You know, I'm trying to get a schedule put together to come down there to Denver with you. You know, I mean, we've talked on the back channel about that. So be ready for that this spring or sometime before the summer. You know what I mean? Be out there in Denver with you. But going back to that, trying to get you to nudge you to write about the Cowboys, going all the way back before we even got to where you're at with the Cannabis Cowboy stuff. You know what I mean? I was like, man, this guy is a historian. You know what I mean? He's the admin over here, and he adds a lot of value, you know, and then you kind of, you know, was like, but you got on your stuff over there and you came out of nowhere, the Cannabis Cowboy, you know what I mean? And that's what we're talking about when it's a pipe dream. You know what I mean? This guy sat there, he's got his patron together. Matter of fact, I signed up full harvest. I don't even grow, but I support the guy because, you know, a lot of folks will run around and go to a brand new business they don't know nobody at and support when it opens, but their neighbor opens up a business and they're like, won't support you. So I'm like the opposite. I support my neighbors. So go over there and check out Bob's Patreon so you guys can learn how to grow. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're looking for other creatives that can bring something to the table here to help our network keep growing. But more importantly, put you in a position of self-sufficiency where you can build a brand, you can do it legally, you know what I mean? You can earn some money. And at the same time, you build a platform that maybe can give you some ability to move around with a little bit more comfortability. Because at the end of the day, being able to wake up and do what the fuck you want to do is the ultimate way to live. You know what I mean?
There's a crazy fact that I found out too throughout all of this. The 13 or 14 patrons that I have right now, other than one of them, like you said, I don't know them. They're not, like I said, other than you and one other guy, basically, actually three guys. They're not personal friends, meaning they don't know me in real life. They didn't grow up with me. They're not a family member. And out of all of those patrons I have, absolutely none of them are friends of mine, basically, or family members. And that's a crazy thing because, in this world right now, I've been finding out that I don't really know the reason why, but I don't get the monetary support of my friends or any family members for some reason, but straight strangers who don't know me, but know that they could probably tell that what I'm saying is not bullshit. And they could probably tell that I'm a halfway decent guy and I'm not going to steer them in the wrong direction. And they can also see the grows that I've done, that they know that if I talk to them, I'm not going to be bullshitting them. And I think it's easier for them to be okay with it. And even someone who might not even grow to support me, which I've got a couple.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is anytime you want to step out and do something on your own, that's why they call it your vision. Everybody else don't see it because God gave it to you. Is your vision. You know what I mean? And then when it comes to support, from those around you closest, what I've learned through that process is a lot of folks will have a problem with you progressing while they're not.
Yes.
And that will cause them not to support you because out of whatever it is, that they're not happy with themselves because you've had the same amount of time. They've had the same amount of time you've had to do what you're doing. And now you're doing something with it. So a lot of that will stem from that. And like I say, family is always the closest one to you. You know what I mean? You can't try to start a business and think, you know what I mean? Even multi-level marketing, been there, done that. You know what I mean?
Yes, you have.
Amway, prepaid legal. You know what I mean?
Oh man, Amway.
Cincy, you know what I mean? Shout out my Cincy folks. I mean, I keep some Cincy. Now that's some legit shit, but I know some folks making some serious paper off Cincy. But you know what I mean? It's going to take some time. And my hands and I tip my hat to you, Bob, because going back, just trying to get you to write articles. You know what I mean? And OAT, and for us to be here on episode 16, dog. Like it's pretty special. You know what I mean? Like
it is.
When folks that you never even met, you know what I mean? You've got so much in common and they'll be able to hang around. That's why we appreciate all you guys that hang out with us here too. Even though maybe 5 or 10 of you now in a year, it's going to be 100 or 200 or 1,000, a couple thousand, whatever the case may be. But the folks that have been around with us the longest are the ones we'll never forget. So we thank you for your support.
Yeah, man, y'all day one folks. It's crazy kind of how this whole thing has progressed. And again, I love you guys to death for helping keep water in the soil. That's why I tried to reward you at the very beginning with all these sort of gifts and things you might not have expected and stuff like that. And I'm seeing you guys do some great things with those gifts. I've got a really, really beautiful light right now that's gonna help me yield about 2 grams per watt. And this particular light puts out about 300 watts. So do your math.
That's crazy, dog. You better lighting you have, the faster that shit grows. Is that what you're saying?
The better lighting you have, the better the ability for that light to penetrate through the top leaves of what's called your canopy. So if you've got a light that is just bright enough to make those top buds big, you're cool. But then there's still a whole bunch of plant in here of little buds that are trying to get to the light that can't because they're getting blocked out. So that's where trimming and all that stuff comes into play. But having a good light source right away, so you don't necessarily have to worry about that in its vegetative stage, is going to make that plant grow that much bigger and that much more effective for sure.
That's awesome, man. See, it's things like that you guys will pick up by hanging out with Bob over there, man. I've been watching him. I always got a call, man. Get out of the garden, dude. Get out of your tent, man. We got a show in like 10 minutes. You know what I mean? Come on, let's go. What are we talking about today? So he's over there grinding it out, man. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And so please, if you guys know folks that, participate with cannabis, medicate, things of that nature, get creative, want to start a business, share this video with them today. Make sure you turn on notifications. And I don't know if Bob actually shared his link in there, but make sure Bob shares his link to the Patreon so you guys can go over there and check that out. Because I'm just flat out excited. Like I said, he's the driver. I'm in the passenger seat. You guys already know he helped me get my Washington State, medical cannabis card. So that's already a benefit. You know what I mean? And if you need to learn how to do that, you can inbox us both. We'll help you do that for any legal states out there, especially for my veterans. You know what I mean? Because that's where I wanted to target my conversations as a retired veteran, is around the veterans who participate with cannabis for PTSD and depression. Because there's a lot of studies and there's a lot of money being invested in now in the firms and consulting agencies to where they're doing this research for veterans in terms of PTSD and the psychedelic measures. You see, Oregon was the first state, I think, they legalized like all the illegal drugs. Now I think California is talking about it. Some other states talking about, we'll make a little section where you can go over there and do your illegal drugs. Like, You know what I mean? Things are shifting as this war on drugs. You know what I mean? We're part of history here. And I think it's more importantly for those of us that are paying attention and can recognize that there's opportunities like pipe dreams that hang out. And if you hang out with us here, we're more likely to find those pipe dreams, because when the tide comes in, man, all boats will rise here. I guarantee you.
Yeah, and I want to speak directly to some of the folks that are here growing, but I don't want to call them out. But there's a couple folks doing some big things, man, with some beautiful grows, man. That's really the most rewarding thing out of all this. It's what I set out to do at the very beginning, was just try and get some other people to learn what I learned and know what I know, and then we all go off in different directions and learn a whole bunch of different shit. But there's folks, like a couple particular people in our comment section and others, that have a great amount of knowledge too, that I definitely want to make sure I bring aboard to help share that knowledge with all of us, because that's what it's about. That's what I'm trying to build, this cannabis community. And obviously with help from UBG and Official America's team and the Built Different group, it's given me the ability to just have fun and do this, and have fun and do the Casually Serious podcast with Ken Man, and have my brother come on here and over there, and some good friends and stuff like that. Like, it's just been great, man. And it's all about the community, because if it was just you and I talking to a bunch of people we don't know without anybody giving a shit, that's one thing. But, you know, we've got a dozen people are here hanging out with us, and they're listening to what we're saying because they believe in us and we believe in them, man. That's a beautiful thing. And that's not a pipe dream, man. That came true.
Yeah. So totally agree with you, man. Totally agree with you. So that's today's episode 16. Like you said, I don't think we'd have made it to 16. It would have been just me and you talking to whoever we don't know. Like, that shit would have got old quick. You know what I mean? And this is what's kept my interest, because not only am I learning as we go with the show, #keep growing. I mean, that's what's helping me, because getting cannabis, a medical cannabis card, learning the differences between strains. You guys have seen me share with you. I learned the difference of, you know, it doesn't have to be a high percentage for it to be effective. Shout out Jack Hare at 14%. You know what I mean? Black Cat. You know what I mean? So just because it's a higher THC percentage does not mean necessarily you're going to get more medicated.
Yeah, you're just going to get more THC. That's it.
Yeah.
It's
funny how that works. But, you know, those are things that, you know, I'm excited to learn, and I'm just glad to be in the passenger seat here. And, you know, today's pipe dreams, if you've been thinking about, you know, starting a business, like we said, folks in the quarantine have gotten very creative. And I talk about this over at officialamericas.com. You know, folks are taking their passion online, just like Bob the Cannabis Cowboy has, because I didn't know he was this ganja god. I know he was pretty smart with the Cowboys and knew a lot of shit. But then when I knew he knew a lot about weed, I became a fan instantly. And that's why I signed up on his Patreon, because I'm like, I know the guy, I want to support the guy, but more importantly, I'm learning from the guy as a result. And that's what we want to make sure you guys do every episode here, is learn from us. And that's why we wanted to share this article from marijuanamoment.net today. Make sure you pay attention to the type of studies that are out there, drill down and go to those links, those writers put in there, so you can really gain some perspective to see, is it really some hashtag shit for clicks and likes, or is it some legitimate info? Because I see Jay Mackin and those folks in your Cannabis Cowboy group, they're sharing stuff in there all the time, you know, and I appreciate you guys doing that, because I see that on my timeline, and that helps keep curating content for me to be able to help bring it here with you guys.
I want to say something real quick about that. Thank you for bringing that up. There's a lot of folks that post not only on my page, but they post in the private and secret groups that I have, which I'm totally cool with. The issue is I created that page with another profile. And so what happens is once I pulled that person off of that profile, which was me, just my actual profile, it sort of broke the connection between notifications from those pages and me, Bob the Cannabis Cowboy. So I don't get notifications from the Patreon page, and I don't get notifications for the private smoke shop, the Patreon smoke shop, or the private group that I have. So don't think that I'm ignoring you. I just have to I have to actively seek that page out and those groups out in order for me to find out you guys are posting shit. So you'll probably see me liking stuff like 2 days later, just because I got a lot of content I have to go through. I have to look through TCSP and just like 2 or 3 other things. And but I'm not ignoring you. It's just a crazy detachment that happened when I learned about
help Bob wherever he posts stuff at. This is the key for you guys. This is all you got to do. It's real simple.
Yeah.
Turn on notifications, but go to his page every day. Go to his YouTube channel. Go to his Facebook page, or go to it wherever he's posting, wherever you like for him to post that you follow at. because that tells that platform, hey, this person likes that content from that user. Put it in front of them on their timeline. It's that simple. It's that simple.
I just finally watched that show too, Social Dilemma.
Is that right? We should do a whole episode. Matter of fact, hey, let's make that next episode. We can build off of Pipe Dreams and go into Social Dilemma. We want you guys to watch Social Dilemma on Netflix. Give us a little bit of synopsis of what you watched, because I watched it and I was blown away, dog.
All right. So without giving too much away, I'm someone who'd like to think of themselves as very forward thinking. So I walked into this documentary thinking they're not going to really tell me some shit that I don't know. They're just going to maybe give me some ones and zeros I didn't know were there beforehand. Well, bullshit. Just the depth of power that we give these companies and these apps is insane. But the matter of factness with the way that people in this documentary talk is what's most terrifying about all of it, because it's just sort of like, how can y'all people not know this? You just click through your fucking agreement and basically told us we can scan your phone anytime you want. And you're wondering why you happen to when you mention cricket farming in your bathroom, you get an advertisement for it a half hour later for some reason. There's one reason for it. If you watch that documentary, you'll find out what that one reason is. And it's a little scary, but it's the world we live in. And unfortunately, I don't think there's any way to turn it around.
Yeah, I think this will be great for us to build off on that next week. So as we talked about pipe dreams, and today, can cannabis get you creative? When you're being creative and you're dealing with that creativity and trying to put it on these platforms, now here's what you're going to have to deal with next week and take into consideration. Because if you haven't watched it yet, please do yourself a favor. Before you come back and watch Squirrel Groupers with us next week, you go to Netflix. If you need passwords, something, hit me up, let me know. You know what I mean? We figure out how to do it. You know what I mean? Netflix and chill, right? Go watch Social Dilemma. You'll be blown away as we talk about digital dealers, social media, dopamine. See what we did there? Addiction, money, behavior, stigma, depression, PTSD, all this stuff ties in, man. A lot of this stuff, folks, you got to understand how to control the beast. A lot of folks like, why you roll around with silent? My shit stays on silent. Why you got your phone on silent? Man, because that motherfucker be ding, ding, and ding, and ding all day, and I don't want it to control me every time it dings. When I pick it up, I'll look at what the ding was without hearing the ding. You know what I'm saying? So watch the Social Dilemma, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about as we circle back here next week. I cannot wait. That's going to be a big episode.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm the same way, and I didn't even know that you were that way. I just assumed that's the way I have to be. No notifications whatsoever. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it until I seek it out, man. And
if I'm expecting a call, that may be the only time I turn my ringer on, so I can hear it, because I definitely can't hear it. My kids know I got tinnitus. They turn the TV, Dad, you're deaf. So I keep it on silent, but it goes to notifications. So if you watch that show, it'll come right back to that, man. So what do we got else before we wrap up today, man? We already got the segment for next week locked out. I like that. That's the first episode 17.
You figured it out beforehand, baby. That's what I like, man.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's going on right now with me with that new light that I've got, the Mars Hydro TSW 2000. It's going to be putting out a shitload of light on top of 3 strains that I'm about to grow right now. I'm about to grow Skittles with a Z. I'm about to grow some Super OG Kush, and also something called Gelato Glue, or Glue Gelato, depending on how you want to call it, which is gelato mixed with Gorilla Glue number 4. All 3 of those are going to be auto flowers. They should go seed to harvest within, I think, 60 days. Something like that. Maybe actually 75 days is what I'm shooting for on that one. And I'm going to document that one. For those of you guys asking about the Dark Devil grow that I just did, my apologies. It didn't come out the way I wanted to. I made some mistakes on this one, and I'm going to post the video for it so that you guys know that I made the mistakes on this one. But it didn't turn out the way I wanted to. I learned a lot from it. It's really what prompted me to buy this light, if I'm being honest. So thank you so much to my patrons for all that. And thank you for everyone for coming and hanging out and watching Square Groupers as always. BG, do you got anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I just think that's awesome that you can share your shortcomings here with your audience. And if that's not enough for you guys, if you're watching for the first time, we're not trying to be the folks that know everything and not share no information. We're actually trying to find the information and share it with you, so you can find your pipe dream too, like we have with Square Groupers. So that's why we always tell you want to get your boats in the water, because when that cannabis industry tide comes in, baby, You want your boat in the water here with Square Groupers, man. I can't wait till next week, baby.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate y'all hanging out, and I'm going to go ahead and leave us the way I brought us in with some of that 305 Live.